Hit the air sign. Time for Monday Morning Fallout.
Oh, man. There it is.
Monday Morning Fallout, of course. When we overreact to the football weekend, as soon as we get the graphics to go. And what a weekend it was to overreact to. We'll start with my 3 big thoughts. Thought number 1, somebody's O must go. Sometimes it's hard to find, like, a consistent narrative about Texas high school football coming out of each week. But this week, I feel like there was like a nice, easy handle for you to just grab. And if you just paid attention to that, everything else kind of took care of itself. And that would give you a pretty decent overview of everything. To me, the story of Week 8 were the 6 matchups of undefeated teams across the state of Texas. And so they were obviously games that we spotlighted, games that we were particularly interested in all week long. And for the most part, I would say they lived up to the hype. For one, like, we'll go to Springtown, Decatur. Decatur pulls off a late victory over Springtown, and I think that the ramifications of that are pretty clear. I think that they become no worse than co-favorite out of Region 1 in 4A Division 1. That's how big that win was. Now, I also think, based on that game, there's a fair chance that that's the first of 2 meetings between these 2 teams. Frisco Lone Star pulls out a squeaker over the Colony. They got pushed, and they took a big punch. And the Colony, I think, is for real. I think they established that. But this was, I think, a reestablishment of Frisco Lone Star as the team to beat in 5A Division 1. A team that will certainly have something to say about it is Alvin Shadow Creek, who throttled Friendswood in the way that they've done to pretty much everybody. And to me, we're going to reveal our 5A rankings coming up here in just a little bit. Here's a spoiler alert in 5A Division 1. In some order, it is Shadow Creek and Lone Star. And to me, that gap has never been more narrow. I think that they are pretty clearly the 2 teams to beat in 5A Division 1. Also in 5A, A&M Consolidated went out there and took care of business against Katy Pato. And I know that we kind of came into this game thinking, okay, is Katy Pato for real? But I think that we can't overlook the fact that A&M Consolidated played back-to-back undefeated teams and took care of business against both of them. Very impressive from the Tigers.
Did you picked all 6 of those Battle of Unbeaten? Do you know what your record was on that?
Yes, I went 5-1.
Oh, not bad. Which one did you not choose?
The one that I missed was I picked Springtown over Decatur.
Gotcha.
Which was...
Weren't believing in Ish's boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be close. Very late. Wall beat Jim Ned 14-7. And I am now at the point with Wall that if you want to make them your number 1 team in 3A Division 1, I can hear it. Grandview's been impressive. But if you want to put Wall at number 1, I wouldn't argue with it. That's a super impressive win on the road at Tuscola to slow down a high-powered Jim Ned offense and come out with a win. And finally, there was probably the most impressive of them, which is Shiner's big win over Weimar. And I mentioned it before in the picks, and I mentioned it again, I think, on the show, that somehow Shiner has flown under the radar. Somehow. Despite the fact that I think they're number 2 in the 2A Division 1 rankings. They have flown under the radar. They are crushing people. Mm-hmm. They are running the ball exceptionally well with Donnie Taylor. Their defense has been lights out. The Shiner's for real. And if you want to, that's another thing. If you want to put Shiner at number 1 in 2A Division 1, I mean, look, we pretty much agree that they're going to get their chance against Refugio.
Right.
So we'll find out.
One of Refugio, Mason, and Shiner they're going to play each other. It's Region 4.
Yes.
Right? And so they're most likely right now, it looks like Refugio is going to get the shot against Shiner. So we'll see. But, yeah. I mean, if you want to say right now, sure.
I think it is. So those are really I think there's a nice, easy handle on what you can take away from Week 8, which is just those 6 matchups of undefeateds, and each of those 6 winners, and even a couple of the teams that fell short, I think, have established themselves as powers. Thought number 2, hashtag actually good and hashtag actually bad. In college football, I think that there were 2 teams that established themselves that we had questions about. We're like, okay, they're looking good. Are they for real? I think they established themselves as hashtag actually good. Mm-hmm. One of them is SMU. Temple came to town, and they they took the fight to Temple. Mm-hmm. Like, they just went out there and they threw the first punch and they said, not today. And Shane Buechele was great. Reggie Roberson was great. SMU proved that they are for real. If y'all want to start showing up to games, that'd be cool.
Call them out, boy.
I'm serious. That's embarrassing. You have a top 20 team, right? Are they top 20 at this point?
Yeah, they're 16.
Okay. Yeah. You have a top 20 team that's undefeated, and that stadium's half full? Come on. The other one's Baylor. Baylor goes on the road to Oklahoma State, and it wasn't always pretty, at least for the first 3 quarters, but fourth quarter, they owned it, and they pulled away late. And that's kind of been a trend for this team, is that they have owned the final frame, and that's an encouraging trend for them. Now, I'm sure Matt Rule would and his doctor would appreciate it if they would take care of business earlier in the game. But the bottom line is that right now those teams are rolling, and I think that there's no more qualifying it, that they are just actually good teams, plain and simple. Big tests still to come, but for now,
especially for Baylor.
And then there's #actually bad, and it's just time to stop qualifying it. That there are at least 3 very bad teams in the state. Mm-hmm. Rice, it's time to quit qualifying it. That's a game at UTSA against another bad team that you should win.
Yep.
Right. Rice is just bad. UTSA, I'm not convinced they're any better. But UTSA is bad. And then there's UTEP. Those are the 3 teams that are #actually bad. The one that's on the fence for me is Texas State.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to throw them in that group, I wouldn't
I think they're.
It's just done. Look at him.
I think they're a half step above that group.
Right, a half step. Right.
A half step.
Oh yeah.
Like it kind of stinks that this is the one year that UTSA and Texas State skipped the series.
Right.
So like we could actually see that play out on the field to see like, are they better than that group? So
yeah. Anyway, that's thought number 2. Thought number 3 is crunch time. It is now week 9 of the Texas high school football season. Week 9. So where there are teams that only have 2 games remaining in the regular season, and it is now time where I believe Steps playoff projections are coming up on TexasFootball.com for insiders, coming up here shortly, either today or tomorrow. I don't know. I need to get with Will and figure out what's going on. But they're going to be up on the site. Like, the bracket's starting to take shape. And if there's a time that I think I always tell this to people, is like our audience for Texas Football Today on like a regular basis, I love you guys. I love you nerds, because you're nerds, okay? You guys are locked into high school football year round, and I love you for it. That's why we're friends, okay? This is also the time where if you've got a buddy who generally likes to clock in on high school football like when it matters, now's the time to clock in.
Oh, yeah.
This is the time to check in, because
playoff scenarios start working through, district championships, district playoff spots, all that stuff start coming in.
It gets fun right now. It gets to the point where every game matters, and not in the like
old ball coach way.
Right, yeah. Every game matters in the immediate way, not in the like, oh, well, this means this and this means that.
No, we could miss the playoffs if we lose tomorrow.
Yes,
like that type of stuff.
This means that that's happening. Yeah. So it's crunch time now. Those are my 3 big thoughts. Helmet stickers. 3 helmet stickers. A helmet sticker for Sherilyn Pioneer quarterback Eddie Lee Marburger, who went 29 of 38 for 318 yards and 6 touchdowns passing, and also ran for 123 yards and 2 scores. A helmet sticker for Texas A&M linebacker Buddy Johnson. He was excellent in their game against Ole Miss. That was a matchup of who wanted it less between A&M and Ole Miss. It was hard to watch at times, but Buddy Johnson came through huge. And it's not just, obviously, there's the scoop and score fumble recovery for him, and that's going to get a lot of headlines, but he was everywhere. I think he had 10 tackles and a tackle for loss. He was all over the place. Buddy Johnson gets a helmet sticker. He's a big reason why they won. I mean, really and truly, without him, like they could be looking at 3-4 and having some big time questions. But they get the win in large part because of Buddy Johnson. And a helmet sticker for Alamo Heights quarterback Kobe Love, who went 44 of 73 for 507 yards and 7 touchdowns. 73 attempts. That's a lot. I need to check the record books. That's going to be up there. Anyway, that is those are 3 helmet stickers. 3 teams to watch. El Campo, a team that I think went 3-7 last year, just took down Sealy 28-0, and now established themselves as them and Needville as the teams to beat in that district. Unbelievable job for the Rice Birds down there. Tarleton State. Mm-hmm. That was a game that we had circled all year long. Tarleton and Commerce, and Tarleton goes out there and takes care of business. An impressive win for the Texans. They are, I mean, right now, if you're talking about the best small college football teams in the state of Texas, it's Tarleton and Mary Hardin Baylor, and there's not really much of a debate. That you whatever order you want to put those guys in, I don't necessarily. I think probably Mary Hardin Baylor gets the nod,
right?
But in any case, that is that was very impressive. And Pflugerville Weiss.
Man, how about them?
The second-year varsity program is now in the catbird seat to win the district.
Big game against Eastview this weekend.
Huge game against Georgetown Eastview. But those are 3 teams to watch. And then 3 to see, heading forward into this next week. How about 2 teams that played for titles last year? Galena Park North Shore and Beaumont Westbrook is going to be all sorts of fun. That'll be great. It's in Galena Park, or no, it's in Beaumont. It's in Beaumont. North Shore appears to be back at full strength, but this is going to be a knockdown drag out. It's going to be a lot of fun. SMU and Houston, Thursday night affair. SMU, we just spent a decent part of this segment telling you how good you are and how wonderful you are and how you deserve to have a stadium full of people screaming for you. Now you got to go on the road and play a Houston team that you are better than and take care of business on a Thursday night on national TV. Because it could all come crumbling apart. This feels more like, it's weird. It feels more like a trap game than it is like a big showdown. But this is a huge game, and Houston can certainly, I think they can save their season if they can ruin someone else's. So this is a really interesting matchup on Thursday night. And Argyle and Melissa, a 4A Division I matchup. Melissa got a huge win over Salina this past weekend. Brendan Lewis was special in this game. Now they get Argyle, and you want to talk about a fun matchup of quarterbacks. Bo Hogaboom and Brendan Lewis duking it out. That'll be a fun 4A matchup. Those are 3 to see. That is Monday Morning Fallout.